DRTV Media News. 2 survivors of coronavirus disease in Delta State narrates ordeal. 7 p.m. to 6 a.m. curfew imposed by Delta State government still in force, OER chairman warns. Nigeria joins to mark World Environment Day. Good afternoon and welcome to DRTV Media News. I'm Ugali Mafru. You're welcome. 2 survivors of the novel coronavirus disease in Delta State, Chief Austin Eruto and Mr. Jerry Azinge, have confirmed that COVID-19 is real and not an imagery. Chief Eruto and Mr. Azinge stated this Friday at a press briefing organized by the Delta State COVID-19 team at the Press Center, Government House, Asaba. Government House correspondent Mariam Weke files in the report presented from our studio. The Nigeria Center for Disease Control (NCDC) says it has come up with a new case management guideline for the treatment and discharge of COVID-19 pandemic patients. The Director General of NCDC, Dr. Chinwe Yekwazu, made this known at the Presidential Task Force of COVID-19 PTF media briefing in Abuja. Dr. Yekwazu said that the third version of the guidelines was released following the emergence of new science about the duration of the infectivity of the individual patients. The Director General said that the guidelines were for symptomatic and asymptomatic patients. According to him, symptomatic patients will now be discharged at least 10 days after symptoms onset and at least 3 days without symptoms. For asymptomatic patients, Dr. Yekwazu said that they can be discharged 14 days after the first PCR positive test. Dr. Yekwazu said that physicians were hesitant about the new guidelines, assuring them that the new guidelines were effective. The NCDC chief said the center had also removed the use of antivirals and hydrochloroquine from its treatment guidelines. He said the antiviral will now be used only on trial setting and casually because its safety was uncertain. The Emboying state government has suspended all government activities for 1 week following the rising number of COVID-19 cases to 75, even as some top government officials have been affected. Commissioner for Information and Orientation, Uchenna Orji, disclosed that the cases rose to 75 after over 3,000 samples were tested, noting that 26 cases have been discharged and 49 still receiving treatment and in stable condition. He noted that the state governor, David Umahi, was worried over the way and manner state executive council members were being infected. Orji explained that to ensure effective contact tracing, the state government has directed that all government offices be shut down from Thursday, June 4, 2020 and resume on Wednesday, June 10, 2020, while civil servants should work from home within the period, but with their telephone open to enable them respond to official inquiries. The commissioner said the old and new government house complexes will be decontaminated, while all state executive members and government officials, especially of the Ministry of Finance and Budget, should go for COVID-19 tests within the period. A nutritionist, Dr. Choma Emma Onwachukwu, says constant stress and fear due to the novel coronavirus can reduce and work against the immune system. Emma Onwachukwu said that when the immune system becomes low, the body becomes vulnerable to infections and disease such as COVID-19 pandemic. She further disclosed that the immune system consists of various organs, tissues, and cells located in various parts of the body, and it is constantly working to protect the body from infection, disease, and injury. The nutritionist stressed that when in constant fear, especially during this period of pandemic, the body releases a hormone known as cortisol, which reduces inflammation and white blood cell, thereby compromising the immune system. Imanwachuku said that the nutrition had an important role in supporting the immune system and maintaining proper immune function to fight infections and diseases such as COVID-19. She concluded that improving the immunity is the best way to be healthy. Osun State Governor Boyega Oyetola has announced the relaxation of curfew imposed to curb the spread of the novel COVID-19 in the state. Oyetola, in a statement by his Chief Press Secretary Ismail Omibade on Friday in Osogbo, also ordered civil servants on grade level 7 and above to resume work within normal office hours. He directed departmental heads to work out alternative working hours for staff on grade level 1 to 6. The governor, however, said that curfew would be relaxed for 14 days in the first instance. The governor said the ban on political, public, religious, and any kind of gatherings under whatsoever guise remains in force. He also said all major markets in the state would remain shut, while smaller markets would be opened. The governor said that traders and smaller markets must ensure physical distancing, the use of face masks, and observe all other precautionary measures following the established protocols of the Nigeria Center for Disease Control and CDC. Oyetola thanked the people of the state for their cooperation during the period of the lockdown and enjoined them to ensure that the new measures on the gradual reopening of the economy were strictly adhered to. The chairman of the Uwe local government, Honorable Ramson Noyake, says the curfew imposed by the Delta state government to check the spread of COVID-19 is still in force. Speaking in an interview with correspondent Joyce Nyesiete Nefru, Honorable Noyake said a recent meeting with the state governor in Asaba maintained that the state curfew has not been relaxed. The report.
The Uwe Council chairman, who maintained that Governor Ifeanyi Okowa has not relaxed the state curfew, said the order is from 7 p.m. to 6 a.m. Honorable Noyake charged the Task Force Committee on COVID-19 in Uwe, led by Mr. Isaac Itobi, to enforce all directives of the Delta state government to check the spread of the virus. He explained that the local administration is not unaware that the virus has gained community transmission and must be tackled headlong.
In as much as Delta state is concerned, the state is still maintaining the same 7 p.m. in the evening to 6 a.m. in the morning. The state has not lifted the curfew. So I see no reason why we will not adhere to these rules. Please, in the name of God, I want to use this opportunity to call on security agents that the Delta state government, we as local government, we work under the Delta state government. In as much as the curfew is still on, the same hours, we still want to maintain that.
Honorable Noyake reminded residents of Uwe that coronavirus is real and taxed all, especially traders and religious leaders, on the need to obey laid down rules checking the spread of the virus.
Churches, they are supposed to maintain, and they are still supposed to maintain, the social distancing in the church. Face masks, they must put on face masks in the church. But to my greatest surprise, you go to some churches without face masks. Some of them will tell you that if you have any patient with COVID-19, they will heal them. They should go to a treatment center and heal them. But in as much as this local government is concerned, once you are in church, you are supposed to put on your mask.
The chairman of the Task Force Committee on COVID-19 in Uwe, Mr. Isaac Itobi, said the task force, since its inauguration, swung into action to ensure compliance in order to defeat the virus.
We're going around the town, we're going to hotels, we're going to churches, we're going to other facilities, and mostly where crowds are, to ensure we give enlightenment, and we also ensure that people comply.
The Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 recently said its role now was to supervise and coordinate the challenges experienced while the state and local government councils, including religious and traditional rulers, have been given more rules since the virus has gone into community transmission. Joyce Nyesiete, DRTV News.
5 every year is World Environment Day. The day is set aside by the United Nations to create worldwide awareness and action for the protection of the environment. The theme of this year's World Environment Day tagged Time for Nature will focus on the role in providing the essential infrastructure that protect and support life on Earth and human development. As Nigeria joins the rest of the world to mark the 2020 World Environment Day, health officials in Delta State have urged residents to ensure the cleanliness of their surroundings to prevent the spread of diseases. The report.
The United Nations Environment Programme is responsible for the yearly awareness and action for the protection of the environment. This year, the focus of the World Environment Day cuts across biodiversity as different countries of the world tend to shift ground from holding mere talks to concentrating more on the food, air, water, and the entire planet that makes the ecosystem habitable for both plants and animals. The theme of this year's World Environment Day is Time for Nature. Reacting to the significance of the day, the Secretary to the Warri South Local Government Health Authority, Dr. Tosan Sagi, praised the United Nations for declaring June 5 as World Environment Day and stressed the need for residents of the state to clean their environment always. Dr. Sagi frowned at the indiscriminate dumping of waste and noted that the purpose of the World Environment Day aims at correcting such anomalies but called on Deltans to join hands with the state government to make the environment a safe haven for all.
Beyond this period of COVID-19, after COVID-19, we should still imbibe that culture of keeping our surroundings clean, washing our hands, safe disposal of refuse. Then one other thing I want to appeal to our fellow Deltans, the way we dispose of our refuse is very, very important. We shouldn't burn refuse in the open air.
This year's World Environment Day was hosted by the Colombia government. The day is most renowned for environmental action and has been celebrated on June 5 each year since 1974. For DRTV News, Ifeanyi Onyecheke reporting.
House of Representatives has declared a state of emergency following the spate of sexual abuse in the country. The House also resolved that all members should dress in black at the next sitting in solidarity against the death of Uwa Omozua, Tina Ezekwe, and other victims of rape and violence against women and girls in the country. The Green Chamber further called on the executive arm of government to launch a more effective campaign against the menace. These resolutions were taken by the House at plenary on Thursday following a motion of urgent national importance moved by Honorable Rotimi Agusonye Ogun. Citing the brutal rape cases of Uwa Omozua in Benin City and the gang rape of a 12-year-old minor by 12 men in Jigawa State, Honorable Agu Goisoye called for a better government policy and legislative framework to stem the rise in violence. He said that weak institution, poor enforcement, poverty, and acceptable social practices contributes to the ugly increase in violence against Nigerian women and girls. The lawmaker also expressed concern about rising cases of police brutality, unprofessional shooting, harassment, and unlawful detention and extortion. The House, however, urged government to provide testing kits for rape victims at all primary health care centers and task the judiciary to dispense rape cases speedily. It also mandated NATIB to publish names and pictures of convicted rapists as it urged the Inspector General of Police to immediately investigate the cases of Uwa Omozua, Tina Ezekwe, the reported rape of minor in Jigawa, as well as other reported cases of violence against women with the aim of bringing the criminals to justice. Abuja correspondent John Major Forwarder reports that the legislators also protested against the death of George Floyd and all victims of racial discrimination and police brutality in the United States of America and the world at large. Medical doctors under the aegis of National Association of Government, General Medical and Dental Practitioners Delta State Chapter have called for the unconditional release of their colleague, Dr. Wilson Ebiyo-Itete, a principal medical officer who was kidnapped at the General Hospital Ojogbo in Brotru local government area of Delta State by gunmen who pretended to be patients on the 1st June 2020. Briefing the press in Asaba, the chairman of the group, which is an affiliate of NMA, Dr. Olayinka Ebikaburu, said the strike earlier declared by the doctors would continue until there was evidence of Dr. Ebiyo-Itete's safe release from the kidnappers' den. Aside the above most important demand, the group also made 5 other demands bordering on the calls to the Delta State government to provide adequate security within hospitals, to make employment and deployment of security personnel a necessity in all government hospitals, to erect perimeter fencing in hospitals not fenced, provide electricity in all hospitals, and called on host communities of these general and central hospitals not to see staff as strangers and targets for kidnapping, but equal stakeholders for development. Dr. Ebikaburu, who acknowledged the efforts of security agencies in the rescue of their colleague, urged that the tempo be increased and extra caution be taken to free him unharmed. She affirmed that in the past 4 years, 5 medical doctors in the state had been kidnapped and released after spending torturous days with their abductors. Dr. Ebikaburu further expressed the fears that doctors had continued to offer essential medical services to Deltans at the grassroots in perpetual fear of kidnapping, armed robbery and other hoodlums within the host communities where they work. She, however, posited that no doctor could give the best in an environment where he is not only unsecured but perpetually threatened, thereby calling on government, security agencies and other stakeholders to come to the aid in such regards. And with our report, we conclude today's midday news, but before we go, a quick look at the highlights. 2 survivors of the novel coronavirus disease in the state, Chief Austin Eruto and Mr. Jerry Azinge, have confirmed that COVID-19 is real and not an imagery. Chief Eruto and Mr. Azinge stated this Friday at a press briefing organized by the Delta State COVID-19 Task Force at the Press Center, Asaba. The chairman of Uwia Local Government, Honorable Ramson Noyake, says that the 7 p.m. to 6 a.m. curfew imposed by the Delta State government to check the spread of COVID-19 is still in force. Speaking in an interview with a correspondent in Efru, Honorable Noyake said a recent meeting with the state governor in Asaba maintained that the state curfew has not been relaxed. And on that note, we say goodbye on DRTV Media News. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mugali Mafru. Bye for now.
Till I saw this. What? He was right here!
The savage jaguar.
Sir, I know what I saw. He almost killed us.
Or maybe any aggressive predator looks savage to you rabbits. Let's go!
Wait, sir. I'm not the only one who saw him.
You think I'm going to believe a fox?
Well, he was a key witness, and I am...
2 days to find the otter. Or you quit. That means the deal. Badge.